Welcome to the channel. My name's Caleb.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Nate.
And we're the Cos-Bros. And welcome to today's episode. We have something super special today with the release of the brand new film, The Batman. Yes. We just wanted to discuss it, go over some stuff that we think is going to happen in the future, and just talk about this incredible film. So I know Matt just saw it recently.
I did.
Matt, what did you think of the film?
Oh man, I thought it was the Bat flick. You know, we unexpectedly had the bar set so high.
You think he set the bar higher than Christian Bale? And...
Oh, totally. Yeah,
wow,
absolutely.
really?
Yeah, because his
Okay.
Bruce Wayne was so perfect, and
It was good, yeah.
It was good.
And his Batman was just like that. Just not taking any crap. You know, he had the fight scene in Batman versus Superman in the warehouse.
I guess so. Yeah,
and it was like strong Arkham Knight vibes in that whole fight scene. But this movie felt like you were actually playing an Arkham game.
that is so true. I'm glad you pointed that out because that'll be something I'll talk about later. That this actually felt like a real DC comic movie and just all around. Like, there's been good Batman movies, and they always go for the stylized and the action and everything. But what does DC mean? Detective Comics.
Right.
So it kind of goes back to its origin. And it really felt like a detective drama.
It did. It's something that we haven't really seen in any iteration of Batman. But it did have a lot of aspects that brought me back to The Dark Knight, which is, in my eyes, the best Batman movie. And it really is like, it's hard to like say. It's like The Dark Knight and then like the Batman are literally neck and neck.
I know, this is kind of like almost a race right now. Like, you know, over time we'll see which one kind of like has a longer enduring effect. But I think, though, not discrediting the Batman, we're going to talk about it, but I think with The Dark Knight, what makes it so great is such a tight movie, and there's a lot going on with it, and you have some great performances as well, and just a great story overall. With this one, what I like about it, and we'll explore more as this franchise grows with this trilogy, with the spinoff series we're getting right now with the HBO Max, is how much of this Gotham are we going to explore? There's a lot of the crime syndicate that this world is weaved in. And that was like something I was really excited with watching as well.
Yeah.
So
and it's really like, if you read a lot of Batman comics, it is based off of a lot of like the early stories, such as like Long Halloween, where it's before all of Batman's arsenal of villains come in. And there is still getting run by like the crime families, like the Falcones. And the cool thing about this movie to me, reading Batman's comics my whole life, is like there was so many elements of different graphic novels and comics that I love. Like, I mean, the movie started with a death on Halloween, which signal to Long Halloween, where you know they kill on the holidays and stuff. And that was just one of the many parts that they took, and then they kind of created this world that was their own, and it was really unique. And you were talking about like the crime-ridden streets of Gotham, and Gotham itself was beautifully done, you know?
And one thing I also want to say is that I kind of talked about this in our last podcast. What I liked about this Gotham, what I was noticing from the trailers, is it seems like a perfect blend of like Tim Burton's Gothic-esque style of Gotham, as well as what we saw in the animated series, as well as what we saw in the Dark Knight trilogy. And it's a nice little mesh of everything. It's a beautiful city, but it's also really ugly at the same time.
I love the Dark Knight trilogy, but the one thing I will say I just thought it was lacking in was looked just like Chicago. It didn't really look like its own city, its own space. And I just thought it was so cool how they had Batman riding through the city, and you see like the Times Square type of area that is Gotham City, and it's unique and it's grungy, and it's just got this like this whole vibe, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole vibe to it. Even can I just point out the Wayne Manor as well? Like that apartment, like when you go into the main lobby area where Alfred is doing like the whole, like trying to decipher the code, and you see all the Gothic arches and like the kind of like the floral designs. I'm like, okay, this is like a Wayne Manor I've wanted to see for a long time. Why didn't Tim Burton make this? Because dang.
I'll be honest, I kind of am like lost for what you're saying, because I was like, I can't even remember what Wayne Manor looked like, to be honest.
There honestly was.
It wasn't Wayne Manor, wasn't it? Just it was
the tower, the Wayne Tower.
It was the Wayne Tower, yeah. So we might get the Wayne Manor further on, depending. We'll see.
I think that we for sure will.
I think that the manor was turned into the orphanage.
It was. The orphanage became remember he went back in there and it was like destroyed. There was like drop heads, which they
okay, so that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
So all right.
So we don't really have a Wayne Manor, and this kind of leans into my next part of the Batman. This movie had a lot of good character development for the Batman, which I think made it really a special movie, because we kind of see the Batman develop from this like instinctual like mythical animal to like kind of like getting grounded and like finding just a little bit though of his humanity. I thought it was amazing that they didn't show his identity to anyone or Selena Kyle, and they didn't have them end up together. It really brought me back to the Telltale story, which is a lot of like what this series has been based off of,
correct,
and where they like leave and go their separate ways, and there is that connection there that I'm sure will be further explored. Maybe not even in the second movie, maybe in the third movie, but in turn, I think that this movie really set up the next film to be a lot about Bruce Wayne and to see his character develop. And I think like we didn't really get to see a lot of development on Bruce Wayne's end, but we got to see him have a lot of like epiphanies and realizations that it's not just about him being the Batman, but also about him like making this significant change in Gotham City, which he's in a place now where like at the end of the movie, he's going to have to do that. You know?
Absolutely.
And I do remember you guys were talking about this a while ago where Pattinson had said to the public, like, Bruce Wayne is full Batman in this. And I feel like right now he's using that as a way of dealing with this pain or this identity crisis he's going with. Like you already mentioned, this is year 2 of him doing this. He's already thinking, can I keep doing this? Should I keep doing this? Is the Batman even purposeful? Especially when he realizes what his father got involved in. Like, I don't want to spoil that for anybody, but when he realizes that, he really starts questioning, what am I? Like, what is the point of this? And there is that moment. I'll save this for later, but there is that moment he has with Alfred that reaffirms there is something that you can transcend beyond this. And I think now we are going to see him trying to balance out Bruce Wayne with this Batman, because it feels like this Batman's just like consuming him. Like, he comes out of the suit, he's just wandering around with his like emo hair, the shades. Like, he doesn't even want to exist.
He can't even handle sunlight because he's so consumed by being Batman. And
he literally looks like a vampire when you watch him.
I just love the intro when, he comes on and he's like, it's like the first like 2 or 3 scenes in the movie, and he starts talking about being Batman and also like where he drew that inspiration from, which is Legends of the Dark Knight, the first series that they released, which is Shaman. Yeah, he was talking about that, which is like literally Batman believes that he is this mythological creature that like dwells in the darkness, and you really see that play out in the first couple scenes where people are afraid of the dark. And then like I just thought that was so cool how he comes in later in those scenes.
Seriously, can I say this? Like, Nolan tapped onto this, I think, in the first Dark Knight, like the second movie, when everyone sees the signal and they're scared and they're scared for about, but they just brush through that so fast. This lingers so much on those shadows where you're like, is he going to come out?
Right.
He's going to come out.
You're sitting there like, is
and
it
when
this
he
one?
does, oh my gosh, the payoff is so good.
But you see him even walking in the darkness and like owning the darkness. Like there's like he just does such a good job at doing that. And I thought it was really, really cool. And I was watching a bunch of the interviews on the Batman after, and they were like, so, what is your favorite comic that's based off the Batman, of course, Robert Pattinson. And he really dove deep into the Shaman comic, and I was surprised. I actually own all those issues. I have the first one, and it's the first ever series that they started for Legends of the Dark Knight back in 1989, and I thought that was really cool that because I didn't really think that he was going to say that. I was expecting more of an obvious answer, like hush or like like
something more surface level.
That series is fairly low key, and it's really just about like the Batman being this like almost refers to himself as like a wizard in a sense, like he's like this magical like entity with like witchcraft. Is a very interesting interview. It definitely opened up my eyes to like, oh, this is kind of what the Batman is in this series. Now, am I saying that he's a mythical creature in the series? No, but his belief in self is so strong that it's just manifested fear throughout the whole city. And that's what you see. That's why, and they do such a good job at gripping that, because it's not just one scene where he's versing those skullhead guys, but it's like a series of scenes where you're seeing someone just spray painting something, get freaked out and roll out,
or even just like a squash head who's stealing from a convenience store, and he just comes out and he's like, he doesn't know where to go. He's just staggering, almost gets hit by a car. And I'm like, all right, this is the kind of terror he's invoking in these people. Like, even like he says, like, this isn't just a single, it's a warning. Like, I'm going to come for you.
And then they go back onto what we were talking about, how like in the next movie, we're going to see the development of Bruce Wayne and his humanity kind of come back into play.
Exactly.
In the scene where at the beginning where he does finally make his appearance, once he's all done with the thugs, he turns to the person that he just saved. And what does that person say? Don't hurt me. His fear is so strong that even the people that he's saving can't tell if they're going to be safe or not.
Man, it's so interesting you're saying that he is acting as like a symbol of fear, and he knows that as much as he's trying to bring justice to the city, he knows that's what he is. And yet he comes across this villain who is the main villain of this, the Riddler, who he knows is also a huge terrorist. But what we find out about the Riddler, spoiler alert, is this guy is also a symbol of change for the people as well. Like there's people who are following him, who are like, you have like callbacks to like the Joker where they're holding signs saying, no more lies. And it's like, they're choosing this guy as a symbol. But then when you find out him at the very end and what he's just planning to do to Gotham, it's like, no, Batman does not want to go to this level. He does not want to be what the Riddler is to these people or what they thought he was to them.
There's a difference.
There's that very distinct line. And I think that's something that will later get explored with the Riddler. I don't think he's done with this trilogy.
No.
I did think it was really cool that he got arrested and he stayed in jail and like he didn't get out. Because like if they would have had him get out, I would have been like, all right, this is like a little bit too much like the Dark Knight.
Can I just say, when Paul Dano is unmasked and we reveal him as Edward, I was just so giddy with his performance, man. It was solid, like a real solid performance. I've never seen a better Edward Nelson ever in my life.
Really well performance, but the only thing I would say is I did feel like he didn't have as much lines, or like he was like in it, but he really wasn't. Like his scenes were just so short because like like most of the time that he was in it as Riddler, it's like like a camcording or something, or it's like the buildup of. So like I thought it was a perfect amount. I would have been down to see a little bit more, but in saying that, I think it really did set him up to create like this larger scheme. Like I could see him coming back in like the third movie, and I don't think that the Joker is going to be in this next one.
Probably not. We probably won't see him for a while. He might just be peppered here and there, but even though you mentioned he doesn't have that many lines in it, what lines Paul Dano is given, he gives so much weight to it. He plays with them so well as a kid who's just been, as he puts it, been abused by the system. He's been neglected by the system, and you can see it in every little delivery.
Oh, absolutely.
I also just like that line he says, like, you and me, we wear this mask because it is who we are.
Right.
Like,
oh, yeah.
That was like a real good one. Like, man, he is trying to.
Yeah.
Man.
And since we're talking on the mask, we talked a little bit about the Riddler, but let's talk about the Batman.
Oh, yes.
Let's do that.
Mask, right? I personally, when the costume first came out, I was like, what the hell is
everybody was like that. Everyone was thinking to themselves, is this what we're getting?
I didn't like it at all. I mean, there's certain aspects to it that I think look cool, but like the symbol itself, I didn't like that. I thought I was like, I want like the classic Batman signal. Yeah. And this one, it really like throughout the movie, especially like the color tones and the lighting and everything, really, really grew on me. Even totally. Would I wear it? Probably not. I don't think it would fit my face too well, but like Rob Patterson like killed it.
Yeah.
He sure did.
That is very true. Like I like the suit. The things I did not like were the gauntlets and
the gauntlets were dumb. Yeah.
But as the movie went on, the mask definitely grew on me a heck of a lot more. I was like, I actually really dig
I'll be honest, I don't think it's the mask that grew on you. I think it's just how amazing Rob Patterson did in the mask, because he was doing these twitch with his like right eye that were like signaling like he was like taking mental notes. Like what 1%. I don't want to like, I know we're gonna lose track talking about the suit, but like when he was sitting there looking at future Robin.
I love how you're gonna keep bringing that back. Future Robin.
I mean, me, I'm a diehard Robin fan, but there was a deep connection with him and the kid, and when he was looking at him and he kept doing these like eye things, I was just like, it's those little things that you notice, or he kind of like strays off with this eye, and it just like it does so much for the character, and it makes him look like a nut a little bit. He like looks like a crazy man, but like it looks like it just flows so well. And I love like the crazy kind of aspect on Bruce Wayne, because we've seen him in every other iteration. He's been just so well put together as Bruce Wayne, like, and he's just like and like this one he was just like kind of like this broken shell, but there's just like so much development for him as Bruce Wayne that I think we'll definitely be seeing in the next movie. And insane.
One other thing I was going to say about the mask, and this is something that you pointed out, but like how Robert Pattinson just fills that in so well. But this is also something I thought was clever on just the production design end of it. is the contacts.
Okay, so
we
Wait,
see
he had contacts?
The contacts that he uses to
Those, yeah.
So when we're first introduced him, when he goes to the crime scene of Mitchell, and he's just like walking around very ominously, just scoping like Batman would do. We're thinking ourselves, why is he just like, what's he taking all in? And then when you realize he has these recording contacts that he records all the footage and plays back, I'm like, no one's really addressed this except for The Dark Knight when they made his eyes into like sonar scales.
Yeah.
It's like,
but it was different even than
it
the
was
sonar
even
scales,
different
because I just loved like that scene. Is it could have like gone two ways where she's in and she's like face IDing everybody and they're like getting those facial recognition scans, because like honestly we're living in a world where like that technology probably actually exists.
Totally exists.
You know, and I thought like that also gave homage to what was going to be the future suit. I thought that we were going to see a new suit, and I thought like, you know, it was going to be a little more high tech, and I thought like the eyes were going to drop in, you know, and then there would be like happened in the Christopher Nolan film where it is like filming there or whatever. I don't know if that's something that we'll see in this.
No, but I like how they addressed it in this, how it really kind of just developed him as a character, like how he walks, why he struts the way he does.
And why he can't even remember anything.
Yeah.
Because he's just so just like...
There's just so much information.
Right.
But even so, like, I think that just like everything, all those little details that they built around his suit and how Pattinson worked with that in his performance, I think that was just a perfect marriage of everything.
Even like where he pulls the thing off.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like...
It's just like his little like switch blade.
You're like, okay, I kind of like that
now. He believes it now. Now he's going
and we were all speculating that, well, a lot of people were speculating on the internet that was actually going to be the gun that killed his parents.
We were thinking that.
And I'll be honest, I'm really glad that the series didn't dwell too much on that.
On the popcorn and pearls. Yeah.
And it's a great scene, but it's like, we saw that with the Ben Affleck iteration. We saw that with the Dark Knight, Dark Knight
the original
iteration.
Batman's back in the 90s.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say this. I think this movie did something so original, and yet they still had that scene in there. It was Alfred's confession, which I was getting to. That is actually my favorite scene in the whole movie, because it is a moment where he's at his lowest point. He doesn't even know if he wants to do this anymore, if he doesn't believe in his father anymore. Once we realize what his father did, almost to think like maybe he deserved to get killed. And then when Alfred delivers that line that, no, these guys, you know, backstabbed him. They kind of backswindled him. And then when he asks him like, so did he kill my parents? And he says, I don't know. It could have been a thug. It could have been anyone. The thing is, ever since that night, that fear was instilled in you. And I don't think your father would ever want that. I was like, yes. I'm so glad you delivered that, because it has never been really touched that much on any of the Batman movies. It's always been glazed across. You always get the scene, but you never know why it was so effective.
Right. Yeah. And I think Alfred did a good job.
Dude, Andy Serkis.
Man, who would have thought?
I think where they did draw a lot from Alfred is a newer series by John Straczynski, and it's Batman Earth One, where Alfred is a little bit of a younger Alfred. You know, he's not the super old kind of like
he still has his bravado and his robust from
he does, and he actually has the full goatee and facial hair, and he's a former British military officer or something, and I think that's kind of what they were drawing from.
Yeah, because he even talked about how like I trained you, you know, like how to fight and all that, but I didn't have the training to be your father.
And he was very was watching something where it was talking about his character and how he was like kind of lost too, you know, because he's just gone through so much trauma in the wars and stuff, and like he just didn't know how to process it and be
overall it was just a great scene, a great vulnerable moment, and I applaud both of those guys, Pattinson and Serkis, for just pulling that weight so well in that.
When he started crying, kind of, and then he's immediately like breathing.
I'm sorry, I was like,
I know, I'm like, ooh. It was a great scene, and it really like. That's the thing with I was thinking like Alfred and also the Riddler were two of the characters like that I was like wanting a little bit more of, you know, I think like, but also I'm kind of glad they cut it where they did, because any more of it could have been a little too much, and where you're like, you know, you're on that edge where it's like, do we want to give this character more time? But I think they had like a little tiny moment, you know, and it showed the growth that is going to happen between them, that I truly think is going to be based around Roman, you know. I'm really hoping so, because I think Matt Reeves is really trying to take a different approach to his trilogy, and it can go one or two ways. You know, like the Robin can really like develop and make the story super rich, or it can really like bring it downhill quick.
Wait, I see where you're going with this, and I kind of like that whole trifecta kind of like fatherhood kind of thing going on there. If Alfred is being inspired by Bruce, if he's being inspired by Robin, if you see that going on, that might be an interesting commentary. What Reeves is trying to say, what could be the future of Gotham, is that, you know, we can build ourselves again, even though it's broken. There's a way of doing it, and we've never actually really shown that realistically like that. So maybe this might be something worth doing.
And we see a little bit of Bruce's humanity come back with the help of Selena Kyle.
Yes,
but not a lot.
Not a lot.
You know, I think that there's a lot of like fillings there, but I don't think that Bruce knows how to cope, manage, or deal with it. I mean, he almost seems like he's a virgin in this series.
I know, he's
for real, like he does not seem like he's gotten laid too much, and he doesn't care about it.
Well, here's one thing I was reading about Bruce Wayne is that he's such a detached person from just society and human beings in general. He doesn't know how to connect on a human level anymore. And you see that in here. Like, yeah, maybe he was coming off as like a prima virgin, but it's just he doesn't know how to respond to feelings he has for her.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I'm gonna say that Catwoman and Batman kiss, when it happens, so well worth it.
It was powerful.
It was powerful. I've seen a couple where they just really jump into that whole relationship with Batman and Catwoman, but this built it up very nicely.
And she did an incredible job.
I was gonna say
she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
She really like embodied Catwoman. What was her name? The first Catwoman?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, she was great, but I'm sorry, like she just like is Selena Kyle to me. With Zoe Kravitz, like she did an amazing job.
I think she works well with this universe, and that kind of
it works very well with Robin.
It is, and like I said, a lot of it is really just body language, her eyes. That was one thing that you brought up, is like there's a lot of focus on eyes in this, like the attention of like she's in the club, basically with those contacts, and she's almost scared to look at these guys because she knows. Now he's going to come over here. Because I was looking at him. I was giving him the single. So we can see how she tries to avoid people's glances in a very cat-like manner. And like that's another little detail that I think Matt Reeves just weaved very well into her performance.
I didn't even think about it like that, but I like her.
So,
and I'm really excited to see the future of Catwoman. I don't think that she's going to be in this next one. And
probably not. It's already been affirmed, like at the end, spoilers alert, that she's going to Bloodhaven.
Yeah, which is cool. You know, we get to see a little bit of that.
Yeah, we get to expand. There's more cities out there than just
like,
Gotham.
It's these little things that he puts in where it's like, how can you not want the Robin in it? How do you start the film? How do you start the film in focus of this kid that's like whooping ass with this little sword? And I'm like, oh, that's Bruce Wayne. He's like, as a kid, they're gonna start this thing off where he's like, you know, like losing his parents or something.
About him being a kid is gonna come back.
I was like, there's no way this kid isn't Bruce Wayne. And then, you know, it ends up not being him, and it ends up being a kid that literally mirrors him, right? Because Bruce Wayne in this movie loses his parents.
He does.
After his dad is like trying to be the mayor, you know, and also his dad is corrupt, and his dad has these issues, and then you see that connection. I think one of the most powerful scenes in the movie to me was when he was looking at that kid and you could just feel him, and then they bring you back to that scene where he's at his house and Alfred sees the kid on the video thing, and he's like, oh my gosh, like you see the hurt in Alfred, because there's no way that they show you all that. Oh, and then what? They show him again at the very end where Bruce Wayne saves a kid alone in the water, and
that is such a good scene.
And then one more time, the kid is scared, right? Because he's about to be lifted off in a helicopter, which I don't care.
Was that the kid?
I'm positive.
I think it was.
I thought it was a female.
Either way, it doesn't matter if it was a kid or not. But yeah, that scene too is very powerful because it's basically going back to what Batman represents in a ways too.
It's like he grabs the hand, you're like, hope. Right? But also, he saves the same kid when he's at the funeral for his father. There's just like a lot of people that it's easy to like just skip past it and like forget about it. But I think there was like, next movie comes around and you're like, oh, this kid's adopted, and they literally almost start the movie with Bruce adopting this kid. Like, it actually makes perfect sense. And the kid was a good looking little lad. He would make it great. Robin in a couple of years.
Good old lad.
I mean, at this point, the kid's probably like 15. Like that movie took forever to drop. So,
and then that's another thing is why people are like gonna write off like, no way, that's Robin, because all of the live action Robins that we've had have always been older. They haven't been like they are in the comics. They are actual kids.
Yeah. And here's another thing. Like, this is one thing I'll say. Like, if there was never going to be a trilogy or a series after this, like if this was a one-off movie, Matt Reeves like, well, if it fails, at least we made one movie. It felt like a complete movie. I felt like I got everything in it. Even if like there was no return of this kid as Robin, I was very much satisfied with that arc that the kid had, because what he represents, this kid who feels I'm safe in my parents' house, that security has all been dismantled when my father gets killed, and seeing how Gotham is just tearing itself apart, coming after me with cars running into a church, flooding, into the point where Batman is trying to reach out to help people out of like the ruckus. And he's like, all right, I'll take your hand because I believe you.
But also Batman saved him. And so did Bruce Wayne. That's all I want to leave it at. And honestly, it sets it up for a style of like a Tim Drake style where it's like, hey, I know you're Batman because you saved me. And I like, you know, kids are smart. Like kids are really smart.
You can figure stuff out like that.
And it would really like make sense. Like the kid would be like, yo, I like know that you're Batman. Like we have that connection.
Well, not as smart as like, was it Josh Gordon-Levitt from The Dark Knight Rises says, I just knew Bruce Wayne was Batman. Remember that scene? I was like, bullshit.
I'll be honest. Like I love that guy.
I hated the fact that they gave him his name as actually.
Oh yeah, it was so
I just didn't like that. I'll be honest. Like I
said, there's problems with the Nolan series, and that was one of them. I agree.
Yeah, and it's fine if they like the theories after that movie was he was going to take up the Nightwing mantle right off the bat, but that would have been cool, but that never happened. Another thing about the Robin is, first of all, in the opening scene, he's wearing red.
Yeah, that's true.
Primary color. Oh yeah, he's wearing like a red ninja outfit because it's
Halloween. It was red. It was like a maroon kind of dark a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So there's Robin colors right there already, and then 2. Robin has always been the person to ground and give Bruce more humanity.
Yeah,
always.
Which is what his kid was doing that all the time.
And throughout this entire movie, that's what he was doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just really good points to play it off like that. I really think that we will see Robin in this trilogy, and I think it would be a big miss for them not to do it because he brings so much to the character.
So much.
As long as you do it right, and obviously, I think Matt Reeves has the direction that he would want to take it in and do it, and like. You know, it only really makes sense. Like the kid doesn't have a family anymore.
No,
and
he doesn't. It's
Bruce Wayne, he needs that redemption to bring him back to Bruce Wayne.
Totally.
And develop Bruce Wayne's character. And I think that's going to be a rich story arc that they're going to bring in this movie because we saw a lot of the Batman in the last one, but we want to see more of like Bruce Wayne. And then, you know, I'll be honest, I want to see Bruce Wayne in a new costume. I thought we were going to see it. No, I that was my prediction on
that. Was your prediction. Yeah,
you saw our episode before. We definitely talked about
like, I mean, I truly thought at the end of the movie, his costume was going to be so destroyed because you see it get riddled with bullets.
And shotgun blast straight to the chest.
But it wasn't really. This is one thing I was a little like the suit never really got like battle damaged, and like it should have by the end of the movie. That it should be
like immaculate. Like, man, there's nothing hindering this thing,
right? It's like there's only so much. Like you're taking a shotgun blow to the chest, like 5 feet away,
and then to go off of that, like his cowl when he takes it off that one time, it's very much a soft leather cowl.
Yeah,
so it's like. How is this thing not jacked up? I didn't.
It brought a lot of questions to that, but
it did bring a lot of questions. I was like,
ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. It makes kind of sense. It looks like Yeah, so we've been talking so much about how great the Batman was, but there was a few elements that I thought were a little off.
I mean, not every movie's going to be perfect.
No,
like,
definitely. But what caught your eye where you're like, I don't know?
I guess my biggest gripe is simply just the length. Like, I know it's necessary because it gave us such a complete film, but at the same time, I can see why a lot of people aren't going to like this film because unless you're a true Batman fan and you understand like he's a detective, he is kind of a more slow, meticulous dude. There's going to be scenes where you're just going to check the hell out.
And saying what you're on to piggyback on what you're saying, I agree with you. It's a great movie all the way around, but it's not like I can see where like, you know, a lot of people that aren't the biggest fans wouldn't go see the movie again or recommend it, you know, to other people. And my biggest complaint, and then we'll go into you, was there's a lot of brutality in it. And there was a lot of stuff that was pushing the limits on what you can make a PG-13 rated movie. In saying they cut a lot of blood and stuff out and it showed, you know, for example, when she scratches Carmine Falcone's face, that is a very iconic point in the Long Halloween story, where the blood is trickling down his face and you see the scar there,
marks,
you know? And for me, I'm looking as hard as I can and I don't see a single ounce or drop of blood, you know?
And he's acting like it is just gouging his entire face off.
And it was meant to, but they can't, you know, if you look at the whole movie as a whole, there's no blood in the movie.
Yeah,
no,
there really isn't.
This actually segues perfectly my biggest complaint with the movie. I loved everything. The only complaint I had, this should have been rated R.
It really should have.
It really should have.
In my opinion, I love everything about this. I saw all those scenes that you're mentioning that they had to cut around, they had to obscure, they had to blur out the background when they're in the iceberg club, because they can't show that in a PG-13 movie. And I feel if we're going to go in this direction with Batman, we need to put the content level to that level. And sorry to say this, I know I brought this up last time. Batman's always been a very dark subject for just comics in general,
for sure.
What you explore. I almost feel like you can't market this to kids. And I feel like that's what Warner Brothers is still trying to do.
It's all about toy sales.
I know, but
I agree with you, but also it is Batman's the biggest kid superhero. I mean, he's bigger than Superman, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, you know, kids are still going to want to see it. I don't think kids are really going to be drawn to this movie as much as like past iterations.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, I mean, I don't know, if I was taking like my 7-year-old kid to the thing, I'd be like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, I heard some 5-year-olds in my theater when I went and saw it. So I was like,
man.
Mommy, this is intense. But I do think like they have to make their money, especially because we all know the DC universe sucks ass, and like they have been failing project after project.
But I feel like this is a project where it's a good opportunity to show that DC can separate itself from Marvel as being a different property, and
but DC has no clue what the hell they're doing. Obviously,
they tried that. They tried that with the Batman versus Superman stuff, and
they just didn't.
Well,
work,
they didn't know what they were doing with that. I feel like Matt Reeves knows what he's doing, and what I see what he's doing, he's blending everything that's great about Batman into one franchise and taking it to the level that it needs to go to.
We all want the R-rated rating. Don't get me wrong, but for me, I just know as like a marketing standpoint, as like it's money coming in,
really hard.
It really limits the audience.
But there was like stuff in here that was really pushing the bar. Like all the Riddler's hits, like there are moments like where he takes out Coulson or in the car, and he starts taping him up. It's all blurred, but it's still intense what's going on in there.
It is.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is
or the heavy breathing, just like you're like, oh, that shit is like kind of like making me feel weird.
Exactly.
like the jigsaw, like from Saw
it is.
thing.
So many references to Saw.
That was gross shit.
I feel like the impact of that was much more darker than what I was expecting.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
same.
But that leads me into something else I don't like is when the Riddler is finally unmasked and he's in the prison. I don't like that he goes so Joker with his personality.
Yeah.
I feel like he goes real lunatic-y, real Joker-like with the way he
also
acts.
I didn't like how he was like basically telling the whole world, you know, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Like if you're like use a quarter ounce of your brain, you're like, oh yeah, maybe Bruce Wayne is Batman. You know, it's like it literally like made it impossible for the story to move forward.
But at the same time, like he sits there and he even backtracks on himself while he's talking to Batman.
Yeah.
He's like, but that's not us. You know, like he literally says afterwards, like you think that like, oh my God, he's really exposing him right now. But then he goes back and he's like, but or whatever he says, and basically says that he doesn't think that he's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And so
he just thinks he's just like him from the orphanage.
You can see Batman himself the whole time be like, oh shit, this guy's exposing me. You know?
You're feeling that as well. And that scene is building up like that. But I think that goes back to what kind of version of Edward Paul Dano's playing, because he's playing Edward Nelson, which from my understanding in the comics, he was a bit more of like a autistic kind of a person. So that's probably why he went in that direction with the performance.
He's not Edward Enigma?
No, he's Edward Nelson.
Oh, I'll be honest, I've never even really heard of that. I never read a lot of Batman comics.
I just saw that he had multiple IDs to cover himself.
But I think from what I feel like if that's what Paul Dano was going for, he did a darn good job with it.
No, definitely.
Very too much on the Joker vibes, but I can understand why. Like it might have been
at least it wasn't like Jim Carrey Joker vibes where he was like trying so damn hard to just like do the Jim Carrey shit, and like it just like wasn't working, especially with like it could have worked, but then like Two-Face in that movie, Tommy Lee Jones literally had he gave no shits about it.
No,
and
like, you can see it in his performance.
Trying to match Jim Carrey's energy levels, and it's just like No, Harvey Denton's a very complex character that's based around like the multiple identities, and so it's like you play off of that, and you never were Harvey Dent in the movie. No, we don't gotta get hopped on Batman Forever because that's a topic that we could probably discuss for a couple hours.
Yeah, we could. I mean, I did watch with someone's editorial about it where they were actually building this defense that maybe we don't give that movie enough credit it deserves.
He's a great guy, right? He does a lot of different stuff.
The unspoken masterpiece is what he was calling it. And I'm like, really? And I was watching, like, okay, I see what you're talking. Maybe the Schumacher cut, like the one's still in the vault, might be worth watching one day.
I mean, I still love the color schemes. I love it. And I mean, I think Val Kilmer is one of the best Bruce Waynes that we've ever had.
Oh yeah,
personally, he kills it as Bruce Wayne. He looks the part. He looks damn good in the freaking Batman suit.
And so does Pattinson now. Like I think Pattinson is a great.
I think that if they're all not them. I think Val Kilmer is below Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson. But to me, I was just like a kid growing up, and so like obsessed with Batman, the Batman animated series. So for me and Val Kilmer was always kind of like my favorite.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, what I think is interesting about Batman, we talked about this, is that he is such an iconic character. You can translate him to any medium for any age.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's the animated series. There's also like these goofy movies like the Lego Batman movie as well. Like, you can cater to kids and it still gets some message across without deferring it. But I think with this is definitely not for kids. And I feel like Warner Brothers needs to market a bit more for adults.
I think they did.
I think they are. And as long as they keep that as the part, like, you got to be at this age, if not above, to kind of.
But also, I think that this next one will kind of bring in like the kids a little bit more. You know, I think it could. Maybe. I mean, we have lots of speculation. I thought he was going to get the new costume. That was my biggest disappointment at the end. But I will say, I was disappointed. I just was really expecting.
You wanted the new suit. You really wanted
a new suit.
Yeah,
you know,
at least just like it displayed. You know,
not only just displayed, but just I wanted also his like suit to like be a little more messed up. I thought it was really cool how the cowl progressively got worse, but like, why the hell is his arm or chest not getting worse when he's taking like assault rifle shots 5 feet away, or literally getting shot by a shotgun and like like his suit, like it gave such an awesome opportunity for them to like bring in a new chest piece, a new cowl, instead of like these old movies like we're talking about, like Val Kilmer and Batman Forever, where he like just comes out in this like new silver suit and he's like, oh yes, I look great now, buy this toy. But I thought like it only made sense that the movie ended with like, you know, the Gotham is going to shit, but now I look super badass. You know what I mean? I just thought it made more sense. It would have literally been the icing on the cake for the movie to me. Like the Joker was cool and all, but like y'all got probably one of the biggest budgets that you can spend on a movie.
Yeah,
like give me a damn new Batman suit.
And even then, going back to the Joker being introduced, like that was cool and all, but to me, the Riddler had a more Joker-like laugh than the Joker.
Yeah, like, and it could have just because
I just don't really care about that guy either after Eternals.
Who was it?
He's the one guy that does the mind control in Eternals.
Oh,
yeah, with the big old nose.
I'm
sorry, bro. Like we'll see. We'll have to wait and see.
Matt Reeves has something in store for him.
And obviously, like his face looked really different than any past iteration of kind of like Jokers. It looked like it was just like people were thinking it was Two-Face.
It almost kind of reminded me of just like was it Arkham Asylum? It always reminded me of that kind of Joker as well. I was like looking at the details, like is that Arkham Asylum Joker they're going for, which kind of gets me excited. But we'll see, because heck, we have an HBO spinoff show that's in the works.
Arkham Asylum show, and as well as a Penguins TV show. So
so
I mean, I'll be honest, those sound amazing. And Penguin did an amazing job, right?
Dude, Farrell. Oh my God.
Redeemed his bullseye.
If he would have told me he looked like he was going to turn into this kind of actor when I saw him in SWAT years and years ago.
Oh my God.
Seriously. Dude, okay, so his introduction when he first like spins around and Batman's like doing that and he's like, whoa, hey.
Yeah, such a Penguin, dude.
I was like, dude, you got it. It's like a Ray Winstone, Danny DeVito all meshed in the one.
Yeah.
God,
it was perfect. It was just what we needed. And it was so cool seeing him throughout the movie, seeing him that's going to really breathe the crime lord of Gotham City. And like, I think that he's going to kind of have some competition with some future villains.
We'll see. I mean, and he was really holding the bar really high, along with John Turturro as well.
Yeah, he was. And also sneaky for Mr. Deeds as Carmine Falcone. Sneaky. You know, I know, come on. His butler and Mr. Deeds and butler. I was like shocked that he did such an awesome job.
Dude, people forget he's a really good actor. I know he's always in Adam Sandler stuff, but this guy's a good actor.
And the goofball specialist CIA agent from the friggin' Transformers movies.
Yeah,
jokes.
I mean, you watch any like old like the Coen Brothers films, he's in those as well.
Right.
He does good acting.
He
and
did
I was
damn
in
well
the one
good
series
acting,
the miniseries he was in recently, the Night of, which is kind of like another crime thriller drama. He does a good job in that, and people forget this guy's a good actor.
Totally.
They're all good actors. So.
They all were, honestly. Every single person in the role did a crazy good job. Even Commissioner Gordon. I love
Jeffrey, right?
Yeah, he's cool. He did a great job.
His relationship with Pattinson on screen actually felt really interesting because it felt like you guys are almost like a buddy cop kind of a duo, but you're so distant with each other. It's great.
It was the best relationship I think we've seen because Gary Oldman did an awesome job with
not
The Dark Knight,
but
it was way different. I think that there was just so much complexity going on with the Christopher Nolan series that it was hard to kind of like dive into their relationship. But this one, it being a detective noir story, they were really able to have those close, intimate moments and grow that relationship without it seeming cheesy or anything. And I really liked it.
One of my favorite moments was after he helps him escape, and he's like, "Could have pulled your punch," and he's like, "I did."
He didn't punch his shit out. He's all bop. I was like, "Oh shit!" And then when he put that, I loved it. When he's like on the roof, he's like, and they're like right behind him. He's like, "He just jumps off and he's flying through the air," and you're like expecting him to just land like a badass, and he just doesn't, dude. I was so hyped.
That was such a good moment.
And we see him right before he does that. He like gets to the edge and he's like, "Oh man!" Like, you can actually see like, "Yo, you're human."
Yeah, he realizes, okay, I'm still winging this. No pun intended.
Oh, dude, we all really enjoyed the Batman movie. What would you guys rate it out of a 1 to 10?
Oh, I gotta say
10 for me.
10.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It's like 9.98, but no, it's a 10, bro. It's a masterpiece.
You know, when I came out of the theaters, I felt like it was 11 out of 10. I'm gonna probably go watch it again tonight, and it might change, but I think it's still pretty high for me. Like I said, my only complaint was the rating. Other than that, everything I was sold on.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And since we're talking about the Batman, we would love to hear your thoughts on the Batman. What did you think about the movie? What would you rate it out of a 1 to 10? And what do you think is going to happen next? You know, we really want to hear what you guys have to say as well. Leave any likes, comments. If you enjoyed today's podcast, we loved having you viewing. If you're still here, you guys are awesome. And I hope that you guys have an incredible rest of your Bat week. Hey, the Cos-Bros are out. We will see you next week.
See ya.
Peace out.